Hey everyone, I'm on with Jasper Ribbers. Jasper is the founder of the famous podcast Get Paid for Your Pad. He's a complete industry expert, also founder of Short Term Rental Profit Academy and a bunch of other stuff. So I'm excited to have Jasper on the call today.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for the invite.
Great. Jasper, I think especially with as much knowledge you have going on in the short term rental industry, you're probably the best person to ask about what you're seeing in the market. I think a lot of our hosts right now are concerned with what's happening with Airbnb, how they're handling situations, and what to do next. It's kind of an uncertain market. What are you seeing happening, and what are you recommending to people to do?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen a sharp decline in bookings between 50 and 80%, depending where you look. What's really changed is the avatar, the guest avatar as well. Before, most of us were relying on tourist travelers or business travelers. A lot of that has completely shut down. So the people that are looking for accommodation right now is a very different audience. It's people that travel out of necessity and not out of leisure, right? So it's the medical workers, the relief workers. It's people that looking for a place to quarantine themselves, people that looking for a place to work because their kids are at home and they find it hard to work from home, so they're looking for Airbnbs where they can just either spend a couple days a week working or go there during the day and then go back home in the evening. So there's still demand, but it's obviously gone down. So as far as recommendations, we have to be realistic about the current situation, and we can't be charging top prices right now. So most of the hosts that I see that are being successful in the sense that they keep their occupancy up are the hosts who have made quick adaptations, right? So they've lowered the prices. They started marketing to local people who are in need of a place to stay, typically a couple weeks or even up to a month or 2 or 3 months. So, the people that are having success with that are the people that are moving fast, or changing their strategies fast. And that's what we have to do because we're catering to a different customer right now.
And Jasper, you mentioned catering to a different customer. Are those customers on Airbnb specifically, and what should the host change?
Some are, right? So we do see a lot of people getting longer bookings on Airbnb. The average stay has gone up a lot. So people do use Airbnb, but not everybody uses Airbnb, right? So I'd say right now, like you on Airbnb and other platforms, you want to change your marketing. So you want to speak to the relief workers, you want to speak to the people that are looking for a place to work. So the things what you want to highlight in your listings is like, hey, this is a pet-friendly place. For example, travel nurses often have pets. You want to emphasize how it's a safe environment, it's a clean environment. You want to let people know what you're doing to keep your place clean and safe. And you want to highlight things like, how your place is a great place to quarantine yourself, or it's a great place to work from, right? Because that's the people that are looking for spaces now. Not everyone's looking on Airbnb, so you got to get creative. You got to be on a lot of different platforms. We see people having success on Facebook Marketplace,
Oh, wow.
Craigslist. Some people are Furnished Finders is a place that some people are seeing some demand, but also just the good old hustle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's people putting up notes at supermarkets, right? I mean, you have
Wow.
people calling their past guests and
Yeah.
letting them know, like, hey, we're having a great deal. If you need a place to isolate yourself for whatever reason, we have something for you, and it's like 40% of what it used to be in terms of
Yeah.
price.
Jasper, I'm curious on your opinion on the actual Goliath Airbnb. You and I were talking a little bit before, and you mentioned how the tone of Airbnb might have shifted a little bit. People used to make a lot of money on specifically Airbnb.com, but maybe the way they handled a certain situation isn't leaving hosts, and hosts aren't having Airbnb in the best light. What is your opinion on that, and what do you think that's going to spell for the rest of 2020 and beyond?
Well, I think there's been some serious damage that has been done to the image of Airbnb. First of all, a lot of hosts feel like Airbnb was not a partner in this crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Airbnb made some unfortunate moves, in my opinion. First of all, they they out of the blue allowed guests to cancel all their bookings without letting the host keep their part of the booking amount according to their cancellation policy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So and that's something that a lot of hosts are upset about, because they feel like we should share the burden. The guest and the host should together, they should share the burden of this crisis, right? And so Airbnb basically giving all the money back to the guests is something that didn't go well with the hosts. But in
Mm-hmm.
particular, um, one thing that Airbnb did that really made a lot of hosts angry is the host had to refund the guests, but then the guests weren't refunded that total amount in cash, but Airbnb was handing out travel credit
Wow.
for the fees and
I did not
everything,
know that.
and that was something that really that didn't fly well with a lot of hosts. So, but in general, I think they just kind of mismanaged it in terms of communication. And right now, a lot of hosts have a very bitter taste when it comes to Airbnb, but not just hosts, even guests. We're even hearing from our hosts that guests kind of got word of this, because a lot of guests they're very reasonable, right?
Mm-hmm.
They feel for the hosts. So we even had somebody in our community who was their guest was saying that they didn't refund their host because they thought that Airbnb was covering the bill, and there was even an Airbnb representative that told them that.
Jeez.
And so they, after the host told the guest like, hey, it's not Airbnb that's paying for this, like it's coming out of our pocket. The guest then
Mm-hmm.
decided, well, I don't want you to be fully out of pocket, let me give you 50% of the booking amount, right? So I think a lot of guests are very reasonable, and they read about this stuff, and I think a lot of guests are a little put off as well by how Airbnb has handled this.
Yeah, absolutely. And at least on our end, I'm seeing a lot of hosts go to places like Furnished Finder, at least in the short term. And I got to imagine that over time, as they discover more and more platforms, it's just going to pull away from the market share of Airbnb because they realize there's other places to make money. So I think that's a trend we'll probably see in 2020 is just a slow gravitation away from Airbnb because they find they got to get scrappy and find other ways to make money. And Jasper, with that, a lot of our readers, a lot of our listeners are people who are Airbnb hosts who've been hit hard with the crisis. They have vacancy right now. No one's booking. If they get a booking, maybe it's a travel nurse, but I think everyone's going after that market right now. I'm curious from your experience and what you're seeing, what are the most successful hosts doing? What changes have they made which have made the biggest impact?
The people that are seeing the best occupancy right now are the people that are using all the different channels and strategies out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that you can do, but it's not really that there's one magic pill,
Mm-hmm.
because we have to be realistic. A lot of places you are not even allowed to rent out your place in some states. So the people that are really getting reasonable results right now is the people that are using all the different strategies and channels out there. So they're contacting their past guests, right? They're sending them a message or an email saying like, hey, if you want to come back, we have a great deal right now. People change their marketing on their Airbnb listings, like I mentioned. People go on all the different platforms. It's really the hustle, the people that are willing to just kind of go outside the box and
Mm-hmm.
think like, hey, what can I do, right? Contact all the people in your personal network. Go on Facebook, on Instagram. Like a lot of people are online right now, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I know I mentioned like I did an Instagram story a couple of days ago, and I got like 12 messages because like, what are people doing right now? They're sitting at home and they're looking at Instagram, right?
Yeah.
So it's really just, you have to just try everything and see what works, right? Because there's not one magic strategy, because if there was, then everybody would use that,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
Good. Well, Jasper, thank you so much for your time. To everyone watching and listening, Jasper Ribbers, he's the host of Get Paid for Your Pad podcast. I listen to it all the time. If you guys want to stay updated with what's going on, I highly recommend subscribing to it. Jasper also has an awesome course called their Coronavirus Survival Kit. It's something you could download, which allows hosts to have a lot of access to resources you might need to make a lot of money during the crisis. So Jasper, thanks for being on.
Yeah, appreciate it, Neil. Take care.